When I found out the UFC was putting together a title fight between Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka, I could only think of one thing: war. They are really bringing together two of the most violent fighters in the UFC, two of the scariest guys, two of the guys that you would definitely not want to come up against in a street fight or in any fight whatsoever. These guys represent exactly what this sport is. It's war, it's a bloodbath, it's dark, it's scary, it's a fight. And that's exactly what these boys are going to do. On one side, you have Alex Pereira, the Poetan, the left hook of death. This man is one of the most feared strikers in the entire world. And whenever he's locked into that cage, it's all action. There's a very good chance you're going to sleep. And on the other side stands Jiri Prochazka, the modern day samurai. The man genuinely trains as a samurai, using samurai weapons, samurai techniques, and samurai teachings and lessons in order to propel himself to be a better MMA fighter. Two men that have an imposing feature just by their looks. You look at either of these guys and you know they mean business. Both of these guys have had their fair share of knockouts as well. I mean, you have Alex Pereira, who was able to knock out Sean Strickland, the current UFC middleweight champion, within a couple of minutes, and then also secured a finish over Israel Adesanya in their longtime feud last year at Madison Square Garden as well. Then there's Jiri Prochazka, a man we haven't seen as much as we've seen Alex Pereira due to Yuri's injury that he had last year. However, he also is another brutal knockout artist. He has one of the most vicious spinning elbow finishes I've ever seen over Dominic Reyes. And last time he fought against Glover Teixeira, he also put on a brutal beatdown. And while it was a close fight, Jiri just looked like there was no chance you were taking that guy out of there. I think the big thing I'm trying to get at here with both of these guys is that they have a gladiator spirit. They have fighting spirit. And they're two guys that you just can't picture giving up or going down, even when it looks like they have no chance. I mean, look, there's glimpses of that in Jiri Prochazka's fight with Glover Teixeira, where he was stunned a few times, he was taken down, and when it all hope looked like it was lost, he fought back, got back up, and did his thing. And you could say the same thing for Alex Pereira. I mean, defeating a guy like Israel Adesanya not once, not twice, but 3 times is nothing to be ashamed of. And what he's done in his time in the UFC so far is just remarkable. Alex Pereira has defeated 3 UFC champions in his first 6 fights in the company. Just let that sink in for a minute. That is ridiculous. I think these two actually match up with each other pretty nicely, to be honest. Both are strikers, and that's where both of these guys I think are going to want to favor the fight. I think we may see some takedowns from Jiri, but ultimately, this will be a stand-up matchup, and Alex Pereira is definitely not going to the ground. We know that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how their striking matches up against each other. We all know Pereira has that one-punch knockout power, especially in that left hand, but Jiri is a bit of an unorthodox striker. He is very awkward with his stances, very awkward with his moves, and honestly could cause Pereira some issues just because of how different and wild his attacks will be. Pereira will put Jiri's chin to the test in this one though. I mean, we've seen it with almost every opponent Alex Pereira's fought. The power is there, and although it didn't seem to give Jan Blachowicz too much of an issue last time out they fought, you could tell that Pereira's strength is still there with the guys at the top of the light heavyweight division. Blachowicz was relentless with his takedowns in that fight, and Pereira somehow managed to get back up pretty much every time. If you're giving strength to Pereira, and we know he has the knockout power, it can start to get a little tough where Jiri wins this fight. But this goes back to what I was saying earlier with the fighting spirit, and I don't think anybody embodies that better than Jiri Prochazka. This guy trains like a freak. There's no other way to put that. It's just insane training, and what he puts his body through every training camp, and when he's even not in training camp, is ridiculous and not something you could say about anybody else on the entire roster. That's why I think there's always a bit of unpredictability with Jiri Prochazka. You don't know what you're going to get with him. He's unorthodox, he's awkward, he trains differently, and ultimately could bring a different element to a fight that no one's ever seen before. He has that type of X factor. This is genuinely as close of a fight as it gets, in my opinion. I think there is no right winner I see in this matchup, and I can't even give a prediction for this fight. I don't know what's going to happen. When you have two titans like this who will battle to the end and you lock them in there for 25 minutes in Madison Square Garden in the main event, I don't know what can happen. I think a lot of people are going to be downplaying this fight because they were expecting Jones and Miocic, and I think that's left a bit of a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths about this card. But in my opinion, we have the more competitive main event. This main event is going to be back and forth, and it's not something you can really say about a lot of UFC fights come the main event. Honestly, there's been a lot more lopsided matchups in the recent months, and I feel like with this fight here, we finally have a true 50-50, and we genuinely don't know who's going to win, which is what makes this fight so much more special. You have the Hunter versus the Samurai, two guys from opposite ends of the world who come from different upbringings, coming together in a clash with just sheer power, strength, and striking ability. And you're going to get something amazing. I just don't see how this fight could end up turning out to be bad. In my opinion, this is probably going to be the fight of the year and one of the fights for the ages. So those are my thoughts on what will happen at UFC 295 this upcoming weekend. I couldn't be more excited for a fight, honestly. This fight is going to have everything, and I just cannot wait. I want to hear what you guys have to say, though. Who do you guys think is going to be the one to come out on top in this matchup? Do you see Alex Pereira continuing his impressive resume in the UFC and make it 4 champions defeated in his first 7 fights? Or do you think Jiri Prochazka can come in and claim back his title and prove to everybody that he is the best light heavyweight on the planet? I'm very interested to see what you guys think. I'm super excited for this fight. And yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. I want to thank you for watching another one of these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.